PGA Nation, we are back. Welcome back. An exciting week. Pebble Beach, one of the more fun tournaments to just follow along and watch of the year. It's a beautiful course. It's always going to be a fun tournament out there. And it's going to be a fun DFS breakdown this week of golfers to pick. Usually there's some guys that like this course that tend to play well. We can find some names that we like. But before we dive into it, before we get into things for this week, we got some news to announce. Two big pieces of news for the show, for the brand. We are going to officially, I know it's long overdue, I know, but we're here now. We're going to officially rebrand the show next week. So I know it's a little bit of a tease. What is it? What are you going to do? Stay tuned. Tune in next week. We're going to have a new show name. It's going to be rebranded. And there's a lot of changes happening, right? Like you saw last week we did the draft. That draft wasn't a one-time thing. That's going to be more of a permanent thing. We're drafting again tonight. And you see only three of us, but last time we did a 4-person draft. So how is that going to work? You can't have a 3. Well, what are we going to do? You guys are going to be drafting the 4th team, the fans. We're going to need input. We're going to be asking you guys who you want. And that 4th team that we take is going to be made by the team. So the way it's going to work is when the audience pick comes up when we do the draft, you guys chime in who you think would be the right pick. As soon as that person or whichever person gets the first, second, so you nominate someone, whoever says, I like that pick, that's your pick. And then we'll keep going until you get 6. And then we'll see who takes down the crown. So first we need to congratulate our trusted friend Spencer, who was the inaugural draft winner. He took it down. He had a great draft. But I'm not going to lie to you. We killed it last week. I mean, Not only did Spencer nail it, my team was amazing. Sia's team was amazing. Maniac's team did well. We were really on the number. So it was fun. It worked well. We're going to continue it. And before we dive into this week, let's just say hi to our friends. Sia, Spence, how you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I'm actually excited about this new format, getting the listeners involved, the people's pick, if you will. So we're going to have the people's team week to week, which I think is super cool. And yeah, man, I got to be honest. We got a 3-course rotation this week, and I'm glad that's going to be done after this week. But I'm excited. I think this is a really, really interesting tournament. My lineup last week was okay. It was good, but it wasn't great. And I certainly didn't get the 6 for 6 that Spencer got. So I'm looking forward to maybe crushing that. The good news is you're getting 54 holes out of your player no matter what, unless they withdraw. So you're in good shape there.
Yeah. And just to add to that, if you would have combined our 24 picks together, I think we had the nuts last week. There was going to be some iteration of that we would have won all the money with that. And that's what makes it difficult when we do this contest, because, I wanted Luke List. I'm sure Sia probably wanted Luke List, and there's only one Luke List to go around. So when Joel got him, it made my lineup a little bit worse with that. And that's what's going to happen in this contest. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun doing this moving forward. And I'm just looking forward to getting going with that with you guys.
I love it. I'm so excited. I think this is going to be, it's different. We're going to change up from just kind of going through tiers from now on. We're going to do this a little bit more consistently every week. It's going to be a draft. Give us feedback. This is still new to us. We did it once last week. We're going to implement a scoring system so we can keep track over the year, see who's winning. But we love the feedback from you guys. We're doing it for you guys. So let us know what you think. Let us know how we can improve. We would love to kind of make it the best that we possibly can.
And for the record, Joel, and we can talk about this next week when we kind of really fire this up with the rebranding and all that stuff, but we're going to play the people's team too. It might be a $3 lineup or something, but I want that lineup to be in play too, so that when we can come back the next week and be like, hey, that lineup did better. And for the record, a lot of people don't like to, quote, give out lineups. Just to be clear, and we'll say this again next week, we're not actually giving out lineups because we don't have the ability to take somebody that, for example, Joel or Spencer selected. So these teams are kind of, made up a little different, which I think makes it even more fun because you have your own players and Spencer has his own players and the people have their own players. And speaking of the people, in our audience is none other than Model Maniac. Hell yeah, we had the nuts last week, he says. What a great guest. I mean, obviously, I feel like he has to be the first guy back on as the fourth person to do the draft because he was part of our inaugural draft. And what a great guest. If those of you that are listening, if you're not already following at Model Maniac, what the hell are you doing? So give him a follow for sure.
I love it. And see, you're absolutely right in that I wouldn't recommend just taking one of our lineups because we are all handicapped by each other. We can't, like Spencer said, like Sia said, we can't pick our favorite possible lineup because we're all trying to compete for some different guys. So it's a fun way to see how we're thinking about it, who we're prioritizing. But in no way is this the optimal way for you to build a lineup because you don't have to have the restriction of drafting against, the three of us.
Right.
Now, for Pebble Beach, obviously we're right on the water, and that's dangerous. So I know if I was playing here myself, I'd be in trouble. But I'm going to defer to the master himself, Spencer, to let us know what kind of conditions and what we need to look at for this week for the actual PGA players.
So I'm going to take 1 second of my course breakdown time to give a shout out really quickly, if that's okay with the two of you.
Sure.
Actually, Spencer, I don't know if this is I don't know if you're going to do the same thing, but I feel like I have to give you a shout out. Joel, we were so negligent last week. We literally forgot, and we did it at the beginning of the show. We literally forgot to tell the audience and tell everybody that we have one of the nominees for Golf Writer of the Year sitting with us every single week. He does stuff for Win Daily Sports. He does stuff for Rotoballer. He does stuff for the Better Golf Pod. But we have him on our show at Win Daily Sports. We have him in our Discord at Win Daily Sports. It's none other than Tee Off Sports, Spencer Aguiar, one of, I believe, 3 nominees for Golf Writer of the Year. So if you guys haven't visited his page at Tee Off Sports to congratulate him, please do. You can congratulate him in the chat box here. But Spencer, sorry to cut you off, but as soon as you said the announcement thing, it triggered something like, wow, we really forgot to mention that last week. I think it's a huge deal. And I honestly feel, and I'm not just saying this, I feel genuinely honored to be like on a show with you every single week because of everything you put out there.
And I need to piggyback on that because I actually feel bad too that we didn't mention it. But in our defense, the reason we didn't mention it is because you're so good that I wasn't like surprised. I was like, of course he was nominated for Writer of the Year. Like, what? Well, that's not even a question. So I should have acknowledged it because it's impressive and it's amazing. But I expect that from you because you're the best out there, and that's why you're on our show.
Well, I really appreciate it, guys. It was a prestigious honor. I'm included for Golf Writer of the Year with Pat Mayo. I'm sure everybody knows Pat Mayo out there, and Brian DeCourty from FTN Network. It's a really, strong group of the 3 of us on there, but it's an honor to be included in that. And I appreciate you guys including me as part of the Win Daily family. You guys have taken me in. I do the Better Golf Pod with Nick, and Jason Mizrahi is great there. So, who's the owner of Win Daily Sports for those that don't know. So, thank you guys for the announcement on that. And it's just, it's a lot of hard work that went into that to get to that moment with it. So it's always nice to get it to pay off a little bit.
Absolutely. And Spencer, I had just interrupted you. So please tell us what your announcement was as well.
Well, my announcement is exciting also. So both of you know Coach, right? At North Forker 12 on Twitter.
Of course. Yeah.
So I got a message from him the other day that he wanted to send me something through the mail. And I figured this was the perfect platform to show it off. I think both of you guys will love it. So hopefully this shows up correctly. That is Jason Day, if you can't see.
Oh, yes, I can see it. And that is an autographed cover of Golf Digest?
Yeah, the reflection there is kind of hitting a little bit, but an autographed thing from Jason Day from Golf Digest. So I just wanted to take a second and thank Coach again for the generosity on his part. It's a good community we have inside of the golf world, and it is perfect timing for Day's celebratory victory that's going to take place this week at Pebble Beach.
Well, wait a minute. If Coach is going to go out of his way and do something that awesome, they say to you, we got to counter. I think Coach has got to come on and draft with us.
I agree.
We need a 4th draftee. We're looking for a spot. Coach, are you in?
I am typing in our Discord right now. Not for tonight necessarily, but you're right. Listen, Coach is one of those guys that he's kind of everywhere in this sort of golf, spectrum. And he's got good info and he's just really kind of fun and he's not the only one in this space that's like that. So, I mean, I think you're right, Joel. I think guys like Coach should be visiting our show a little bit here and there too. And let's not get away from the fact that, wow, what an awesome gift, Spencer. That's incredible.
Super thoughtful, just very nice on his part to think of me on that. And, one of the things I'll throw out there, if we're rebranding the show's name, just something to keep in mind. What if we call it Win Daily Sports?
That is on the cutting room floor, my friend. Can you do me a favor? Can you hold up that magazine one more time?
Yes.
Maybe a little higher and maybe like kind of tilt it down a little bit. See if that light, there we go. But I want your face. That's actually the perfect angle. Just move it to the side so I can see your face as well. All right, cool. Because we got to screenshot that and post it. That's awesome.
And I'll tell a fun, quick story before we dive into things here. We've been, like I said, we're doing this big rebrand. We're coming up with a new name for the show. We're going to start this draft process. It's going to be a big thing. The three of us have been talking on the side, coming up with the name. And of course, as Spencer does, Spencer came to us and said, what do you guys think about the Jason Day show? And I said, no, that's not what we're going to name the show. and so I was trying to be like funny and like kind of coy about it. So I was like, I'll tell you what. And this was, mind you, before the tournament started.
I warned you. About this.
I said, if Jason Day wins a tournament before we think of a better name, then fine. That's what we'll name the show. Thinking like, obviously he's not going to win a tournament. We're going to have a name by next week. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Then Sunday comes last week and Jason Day's in the lead. And now I'm like, we're going to be called the Jason Day Show. We didn't have the name yet. He's in the lead. I'm like, that's going to happen. Unbelievable. Yeah. That's actually going to happen. But he didn't pull it out.
Well, I had a live bet on him earlier in the day. I tweeted it out. I got to tell you guys, depending on the book you're using, some people use offshore stuff still because it's, gambling might not be legal in their state. The live odds when it comes to golf, they are kind of finicky, and it really depends on who's really operating that particular sports book. You might get a really clear advantage. I'll tell you a little story. Again, we're going to get to the draft in a second, but this is actually important for people to know that when you're live betting, you can live bet down the stretch, like on the last couple holes, or even the last hole, or even in a playoff. And I heard a story the other day that I was able to verify, where when Luke List knocked it to about 3 feet in the overtime hole, in the playoff hole, they, for some reason, still had his odds at plus 300. And they had Will Zalatoris' odds at minus 400. Yeah, minus 400, which means, of course, whoever was operating that book had it reversed. He had it on the wrong guy. The guy who did that got paid out. He bet it twice in that moment and got paid out on both. No questions asked, because technically you still are undertaking some risk. Obviously, it's not like a foregone conclusion that List makes that putt. The long story short is clearly that operator kind of messed up, but it's not the first time I've seen something like that. That one is kind of an extreme example, but there are plenty of times where some guy nails it and the odds just don't adjust quick enough for whatever reason, and you can really take advantage of it. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Do you know what book paid that out?
It was an offshore book.
Good for them to pay it out, because I mean, a lot of times they try to find loopholes to not pay those wagers out. So they made a mistake. They paid it out. That's whatever book that was. It's a good book then.
Yeah, it has a very good reputation. Some of these books have been around for a couple decades. You're going to get paid out. It's usually not an issue. And if there is an issue like that, they'll probably bring it to your attention as opposed to like freezing your account or something. So you do have to look, if you're going offshore, which you're not supposed to do, you do have to look for the reputable ones, because there's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, let's dive into this one of things. Let's talk into, we want to talk about Pebble Beach. We want to dive into the course breakdown. Who better to give you the course breakdown than finalist, probable winner of Golf Writer of the Year, Spence? Talk to me.
Yeah, I will keep this very short, but I'm relieved that this is our last rotational split of the season. We are going to see the field rotate between Pebble Beach, Spyglass Hill, and Monterey Peninsula over the first 3 days before the top 60 and ties make their way back to Pebble Beach to round out the event. We once again have some issues from a modeling standpoint, since only Pebble Beach has Stat Tracker available. But despite the flaws between that and the awkward rotation of rounds that take forever because of the amateurs that are included, we have gotten extremely steady course history over the years. I've been saying this for the past few weeks, but I think the most important thing during events like this is to try to pinpoint similarities between the tracks, that is the most surefire way to make sure your modeling gets incorporated into the mix on all 3 courses. So I started with par 5 scoring for 20%. All 4 courses will have their best scoring opportunities at these locations. And we see a track like Monterey Peninsula heighten the ability to go low with multiple par 5s that have nearly a 5% eagle rate for the field. I did weighted POA for 15%. That's a 70-30 split of strokes gained total on POA and strokes gained putting on POA. A weighted par 4 category for 15%. I think there's a few ways to play this from a modeling standpoint. We have a very high 22.2% of second shots that come from 100 to 125 yards. That total is 10.4% above expectation level. I typically avoid grabbing specific proximity ranges like this because I think it does more harm than good if you aren't recalculating every iron shot to mimic the course. So I instead looked at a lot of the 350 to 450 par 4 ranges. We're going to have a slew of those at every location, but you could certainly throw the proximity numbers in there. I do think they're important. I did 10% on strokes gained total in the wind. This is a showdown answer, but keep in mind that Spyglass Hill becomes an intriguing showdown track when the winds do pick up because of the tree line nature of that course. 12.5% on strokes gained around the green. None of these greens are large, but Pebble Beaches are the smallest on tour at 3,500 square feet. To somewhat counteract that, I did 10% on GIR percentage. And then I wrapped it up with 17.5% on strokes gained total at courses under 7,200 yards. There are always going to be issues when trying to warp together 3 separate tracks into one, but all 3 fit this yardage dispersion that I weighed above. And I like finding quantifiable data that extends to various venues when you get these tricky tournaments. So that's how I built my model this week. It's not the easiest one from a modeling perspective, but I think most of those things tie in together and play at all 3 tracks, which I like.
Yeah, and the only other thing I want to add in there, and Spencer, forgive me if you mentioned this, and I'd actually like your input if you didn't mention it. Course history, I feel like, seems to be, based on, looking at the past 5-10 years, it seems to be something that you'd want to emphasize a little bit more than most, not all tournaments, but most tournaments. So I know for this tournament, one way I'm sort of, breaking ties or picking guys out over other guys is looking at the course history and looking at some consistency or at least some experience that isn't terrible on these tracks, but specifically, obviously, Pebble.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct with that. When we look at the course history, there's like 10 or 15 guys that we can look at that have almost been shoo-ins for a top 25 almost every single year that they play it. And that's something that I have on my model. If you make a copy of it, like you can weigh the course history into the mix to it. And normally I do somewhere between 10 and 20% on most weeks. This week was 25% course history. So I'm looking into it really heavily. It's not going to be as much as I use for like the Masters, for an example, but I do think this is one of the tournaments where course history will come into play. So I think that's a really good point that you just brought up there, Sia.
Fair enough.
Music to my ears. I always lean on courses. I love horses for courses. Right? Is that a thing that people say? I love doing that. I think.
Yes.
I think. It makes sense, right? There's certain, like, especially a course like this, where at Pebble Beach, where it can be different, right? It's it's not always the typical type of course where guys, the creme tend to rise to the crop, and guys who have experience playing in these more difficult situations. I want to go to that well. So. Sia, did we lose you?
Sia's afraid to do the draft with us.
I mean, can you blame him? I would be afraid too. I mean, look, we're joking. Sia, defend yourself. All right, forget about him. Alan, you're in. If anyone can name that movie quote, I will have a present for you in the chat. Sia's back. Hey.
Oh, hey guys. Sorry about that.
Wait, we see something. Oh, I didn't know I could move us around. All right, Sia, let's put you back in your rightfully deserved spot. Okay, and we're back. So, diving in, it is draft time. We didn't back up. The order this week, the way we decided it was, we decided the winner last week gets to pick their spot. Spencer, as the winner, congratulations, went with the first pick. Coming in second, I got the second choice, and I opted for the last pick. It's a snake draft. I wanted the 2 in a row. Sia went with 3, and the audience, which is you guys, are going to pick second. So again, to reiterate how that's going to work, when it's the audience pick, anybody, nominate a golfer. Anyone can nominate. As soon as the first golfer to get seconded for your pick is going to be your pick. So as soon as someone says, I also want that golfer, that's who you guys are going to take. I Obviously, you do still have to stay in salary. So if you guys are not following along by the rules, we're going to have to make adjustments for you. But you guys you'll figure it out. So without further ado, Spence, with the first pick of the draft, you're on the clock.
So I don't want to give away too much of my strategy this week, although I'm not. This is going to be a very boomer bust route that I'm going to take this week. I think I'm either going to come in first or I'm going to come in last this week. When I tried to figure out who I wanted first, so I picked the number one spot because there is a guy that I wanted to take first overall. I have some concerns. He has a bad back, or at least he might have a bad back. We don't know that to be the case right now. I know you guys are laughing about it. It's not Jason Day that I'm going to take. I am going to take Daniel Berger first overall. Berger has played this track 3 times. He's come in the top 10 every single time he's played it. I'm willing to get around some of the back issues. Now, if I'm assuming for the sake of this, that if he pulls out before the start of the tournament, I don't need to throw in a dead lineup and can change it to somebody who hasn't been picked, right?
For sure.
And it's going to ruin my salary a little bit based off of that. But I'm going to take Daniel Berger first overall.
I am baffled. The reasoning behind your pick points to one golfer, and you didn't take him? It's speechless. I'm left speechless.
I mean, I think he thinks that we're not going to take him, but what he doesn't realize,
the audience is going to ruin me.
There's an audience pick as well.
The audience is going to ruin me. I've kind of considered this.
Oh, so it's on the audience. So how do we do this? How do you want to do this?
In the comments? So Miami Mike, Charlie, Nathan.
Oh, there it is. There we
go.
All right, Jason Day.
Well, so hold on. Before it's official, does anyone else want to participate? You can just second the pick. Just say you want Jason.
Can I veto it?
Make your pick. You cannot. You cannot veto. That would make the list official. If someone else wants to take someone else, so now we have a Rose. Rose is the pick. Taking over. We got 2 Roses.
Here comes a Cantlay. See, this could be a mess. There's so many golfers, right? They could we got like 150 to go.
Rose got 2.
Rose is the pick.
Oh, Rose got 2. Okay, that's true.
All right, see you. You're up.
Thank you, Nathan, John Golden, Mike Nicely, Charlie, of course, and sorry. Oh, wow. Everybody really like Miami. Mike said Rose. We had a lot of Rose there. Who was the one that? Oh, Jason Day. Sorry, Charlie. That's an actual saying. So I wasn't trying to be weird with that. Okay. So this guy has experience on this course, but it's actually not elite experience. However, his game as of late has been quite elite, with a 14th, a 3rd, a 15th, and a 4th over his last 4. This guy is crushing it with the ball striking. He seems to be a guy that is like continuing to rise. The group was called Snap. The year was 2003. The song was I've Got the Power. Sia now has the power. Let's go.
I like it. That was a good pick. All right.
Yeah, I like that pick also.
Now you put some pressure on me. And you know what? I'm not too ashamed to do it. I'm going to take Jason Day.
This is despicable.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Nice try, Spencer.
I'm going to take – yeah, I mean, listen, you're going to take the first pick and not take Jason Day. What do you think I'm going to let him come back to you? I can't allow that. I'm going to have to take Jason Day. And with my second pick, I think he's overpriced, but I like him. And it's concerning me. So that's why I'm pausing before I make this commitment. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to take – it's a tough one. Kevin Streelman.
Oh, wow. This guy is a complete monster on this course somehow.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something before we get to my pick? Oh, and by the way, I got a nice little compliment here. You guys know how I play compliments. They play nonstop. See, I love your golf picks on the early edge. Had to tune in. You've been money lately, boss. Thanks. Wow. Thank you very much. Yeah, my picks on the early edge, which is powered by Sportsline, a CBS Sports outlet. They've been hit or miss. I got to be honest. Lately, they have been a little hit or miss, but a couple of them have been nice hits. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. I think you're really going to like this show, by the way. So thanks for listening to both. So yeah, Joel, I didn't mean to steal your thunder on Kevin Streelman, but the thing I wanted to ask you is, lately his playing partner, and I suspect it'll be this year too, has been Larry Fitzgerald. I feel like 2 things can be kind of elicited from that. or gleaned from that, I should say. One is he doesn't mind playing with an amateur. I think there might be something to be said for these guys who are really consistent at this event. Maybe that kind of speaks to them just liking the amateur event, the pairing, that just sort of format. But I also think Larry Fitzgerald is one of those guys that is going to be inherently motivating, maybe explicitly motivating, maybe a guy that you just don't want to let down, and he's very encouraging and all of those things you'd want in a partner really in any competitive activity. I feel like Larry Fitzgerald embodies that. I feel like that's part of the Kevin Streelman thing here at the Pro-Am. Am I wrong, Joel?
No, you're not. Listen, Kevin Streelman like defines Pebble Beach. Like that is like you're so spot on with that. Like, and in fairness, Larry Fitzgerald, probably you're right. He probably does make that easy. I mean, he seems not only that, he seems pretty down to earth, but like you said, motivating. A guy inspires you. And I feel like, when Streelman gets that little extra motivation, a little extra inspiration, that's just what his game needs, because he's right there. And like, if Streelman was below 8,500, I would probably play him in every lineup, right? It would be a no-brainer. 9,100, you got to play a pretty penny for what the caliber golfer he is, but his course history here and his track record, I feel like it makes him pretty safe for my team.
Okay, so it's back to me. So I'm debating between two guys. If I take one of them, I'm really going to be having to dig at the bottom of the barrel. And this is sort of, I think, when people are making lineups that are listening, and you guys too, like these are sort of the mental impressions and progressions you go through, right? If I take a guy like, let's say, who's the highest priced guy, what does that do to the rest of my lineup in terms of average salary? There goes the balanced lineup that I thought I was, going to have. So I've got the top guys still available to me. I've got some low-end guys that I like, but do I want to take that chance? And I think the answer is no for me right now. So I'm actually going to go with a guy who is local to this course, at least his family is, and he's certainly been around this course quite a bit. He's playing pretty well, certainly not elite, but he's playing pretty well. But his course history here, a second and a fifth the last two times out. He's got a cool name, so people kind of liked him anyway, but they're really going to like him here, and he's really going to be chalky, but I'm going to take him anyway. Mav McNeely, let's go.
That's a good pick.
Thank you. Edward Gale says, don't do it, Sia. I wonder, does he not like Mav, or did he think I was picking somebody else? I don't know. We'll find out. We are on the audience pick, Joel.
Well, there you go, Edward. If it was someone else you wanted, it's your pick. Tell us who it was. You guys are up. Audience, make your nominations. The first golfer to get seconded is your pick. We have a Tringale.
We have it. Yeah. Cameron Tringale is interesting. He liked Mav. Okay. That's good. So he wasn't telling me not to take Mav. Harmon's interesting. All right. Miami Mike 305. Kisner.
So I'm gathering the audience is not on the same page here.
Oh, we have. I know. Do we have two Harmons? No, we don't.
Not yet.
Who is Frontals from S Clear 5? That's got to be like a typo, right? All right. Who do you got there, Frontals? All right. So if we don't get another nomination, I feel like we have to select maybe the first guy out. Unless we get another nomination, I feel like Cameron Tringale might be the guy here.
So Cameron Tringale was seconded by Charlie, and he also nominated. So I'm not sure how legitimate that is. But since there is a lack of other responses, there we go, Tringale.
Oh, there we go. All right. Cameron Tringale is the people's choice for Team 2. It's a nice start. Justin Rose, Cameron Tringale. Listen, Cameron Tringale is a really good course fit. He never really gets the credit that I think. I don't know if he deserves credit, to be honest with you, but nobody really likes taking Cameron Tringale. I think they just perceive him as more of a safe play than an upside play, but he's done well here, and he's a good course fit. So do any of you have a problem with that? Any of you on Cameron Tringale this week?
No, I actually think Tringale is a good pick. I like the pick. And I think the audience team is we're all in a kind of similar position. We all kind of took similar salary ranges with our first two picks thus far. So we're going to have to start looking at another similar range coming up. So it's going to remain pretty competitive this draft, which should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're 100% correct with that. I think that this is going to be, we're going to all be in the same areas over and over again here. But I will give my two picks. This has unfortunately turned into an unmitigated disaster after Joel's pick. This is not the route that I was expecting to go with it. But with the way that the lineups are out right now, the first name I will take will be Sahith Theegala at 7,200. That's going to open up a little bit of salary for me. I think he's a guy that anytime scrambling and short game comes into play, I think that this is a really good track for him to find success there. And we've seen him really good over these last 3 tournaments to start the year. Every finish has been better than the one before. So I think it's a mispricing for him a little bit where he's at. And I think he possesses some upside for the second pick. And this is probably where there's 2 routes I can go with it right now. And the first route, I know from just what C has talked about this week in some of his articles, if I don't take the guy right now, I'm not going to get him. And it kind of opens up a can of worms for me if I do take him and I don't get who I want beneath him. So I'm unfortunately going to let Sia have this guy. And I'm going to take I don't want to say the ultimate boomer bust pick here, but it's somebody who's missed the cut the last 3 times he's played this tournament. So that's never really the thing you want to be looking for with it. But he does have an 8th place here in 2018. I love his short game. I love how he plays on POA. I like his par 5 scoring. I'm going to go with the upside and take Patrick Rogers.
Wow. I did not see that coming, but right. So those are the picks that like win you tournaments, right? Because people were talking about Patrick Rogers last week, but he's not one of the popular names to talk about this week. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, I'm going with a boomer bust approach to this lineup. Like I'm trying to come in first or last and it might blow up in my face, but I think the Rogers pick, he has top 10 potential, he has miscut potential, but I think the ownership looks pretty nice where it's at right now.
The wise man once said, if you're not first, then you're last. So
that is very true.
Well, Sia, we have, I don't know why Edward is lying. He says he likes you. His comment wasn't nice. That's clearly a lie. He doesn't like you. So I don't know why you're lying. Just give us your draft picks and continue to hate on Sia. We get it. You don't like him. It's totally fine.
I don't even. It sounds like an apology for some reason. And there's like literally, don't worry. There's nothing to apologize for. Thank you for watching this show and anything else. That's fantastic.
Sure. Thank you for watching and thank you for participating in the draft. We appreciate it. So, audience, you're up. Your pick. You're on the clock.
We got one selection already for Russell Knox. Anybody want to back up Miami Mike 305?
We got a Knox nomination, which is a good pick.
I do like Knox.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick also.
There it is. It's backed up. Kevin.
Backed up.
I'm a Knicks fan. I just called him Kevin Knox, Russell Knox. And you know what? Kevin Knox isn't even on the Knicks anymore. He just got traded. Losing it.
Could have been Dawson Knox.
Could have been Dawson. That's true too.
All right. So we got a lot of, okay. So there's Model Maniac chimes in with Knox as well. So that's good to know that he likes them. John Golden with Knox. And then we had a Fitz nomination, a Glover nomination, and Tom Hogue from Adam Wilson. So, keep the seat warm there because I think a lot of those guys are about to get picked. So speaking of, so I guess it's on me. I'm going to go with a guy I never take. I like all the people that were just nominated there, by the way, especially Knox when you consider his course history and the fact that he's a super good course fit. And by the way, 7th at Sony for Russell Knox. So 7th last year here at Pebble Beach and 7th at the Sony. And then he had a miscut in 2020 here and then a 14th and a 15th. So clearly comfortable here. I'm going to go with the guy that I just had my eye on early in the week. And I usually those guys for me are the guys I really need to stick to. When I end up coming off of those instinctual guys, it usually burns me. This guy was also 7th at the Sony in a tie with Russell Knox. He has a good history here, but it's not great. But I think he's really kind of rounding into form. And he's kind of an old name. He's a great course fit. He's not sexy at all. 7,600. It's Matt Kutcher.
By the way, Sia, that was the pick I was alluding to when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do there. The thing I didn't like if I took Kutcher is I thought it closed off too many of the routes that I was going to try to go this week. So I think Kutcher makes a whole ton of sense.
Nice.
I think that's a good pick for sure. All right. Well, I got to look at some salary savers to make sure I can round out this roster. There's 3 guys I'm looking at. I do think I'll probably get one on my way back. So I'm trying to figure out where's the best way to do that. So we're going to start with Nick Taylor as my first pick. And for my second pick on the loop, I'm going to go with Lucas Glover. And so now let me explain my pick. With Nick Taylor, he won the tournament 2 years ago. He's made 4 of the last 5 cuts. The other 5 performances, he has a top 10, tied for 28th and 39th. So it's a mixed bag, but he does pretty well. That's definitely above his average here. So he likes this course. In addition to that, he's played in the last 2 tournaments in the Amex and the Farmers, and he's gained almost on average 2 strokes on approach in each. So if I'm finding a guy who, the most consistent thing to look at for obviously his approach, if I'm finding a guy that's, striking the ball pretty well, and is it playing a course that's above his average, he plays better here than other places, right? Not, he's won, he's consistently mostly making the cut. I think that just makes a lot of sense, especially for someone who I got to get at 7,300. And then with Glover, it's a similar idea, right? In the month of January, other than the Century, which was early in the month, he's been gaining a ton of strokes on approach. So that was my first kind of thought of just like, let me find these guys that are striking the ball well. We're going to get that with Glover, and I can partner that with Glover with the fact that he's also a good course fit. I mean, we're not talking, winning, but with a tied for 7th and tied for 11th, the 11th was in 2016, so it's a long time ago, but he's made the last 3 cuts. He's got a tie for 50 last year, but Lucas Glover seems to be playing better now than his average. So I'm getting him playing well. I think it's a good spot for him. So that was my thought process.
Okay, first of all, I love those picks. I love Lucas Glover. And so a little spoiler alert here. At the end of the show, we usually do first-round leaders and outrights, of course. I don't have any first-round leaders because of this 3-course rotation. I don't know if you guys do, but I do have a few outrights. And I'll tell you right now, one of them might be one of the guys on Joel's team. Actually, I can say that definitively. It's one of the guys on Joel's team. So when we're done with this, we're going to go that route, and you're going to see. I think I got a good one for that.
Jason Day. I know you're on Team Day this week.
Well, it's interesting. It's weird because last week when we had a draft, the tournament went to a playoff, and both guys in the playoff were on my team. So that's
that's true. And for the record, last week, I don't know if you guys recall, I was like team no putt. I was going to die on that hill because of those greens. I said, hey, listen, some of these, and that's why, by the way, I had Kyle Stanley in my lineup. So I'm not exactly patting myself on the back, but Will Zalatoris and Luke List in the playoff. Team no putt actually worked out. You just had to get the right team no putt guys. Okay. So I'm going to do a little salary saving as well because my average amount left is 7,700. I'll make this one really quick. And I'll tell you, this guy, it has not been on anybody's radar lately, nor should he have been. He's got great course history here. And here's the cool thing. Tom Hogue, who I think we all like. I think we all think Tom Hogue is probably a good course fit here. He is, depending on the book you look at, let's talk DraftKings. He's 60-1. And he's 8,500, by the way, on DraftKings. Well, the guy I'm about to mention is 7,200 on DraftKings. Guess what his odds are? 60-1. The same odds as Tom Hogue, 1,300 cheaper. A good course fit and great course history. Another non-sexy name. I guess that's the theme this week. Troy Merritt, give it to me at 7,200.
It's funny, Sia. I didn't take him because I didn't think anyone would. And I bet I'll get him on the way back. Wow, he was the next pick. Wow, good pick.
So that's what's so great about this, right? It's like, when you're doing your fantasy football drafts with your friends, you're like, oh man, I thought he was going to last. Well, that's part of the game here.
That was a good pick.
All right,
so audience, you are on the clock. Please put in your nominations. Who would you guys like? The first golfer, I reiterate, to get doubled up, to get seconded, will be your draft pick. Please, who you guys taking? JJ
that's interesting.
Spawn. He played well last week, didn't he?
Spawn's
he made
good.
the cut. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else like Spawn?
Spawn's course history here isn't great. It's full of missed cuts, which you might expect from a guy like JJ Spawn, but recent history has been pretty good. Oh, we got Aaron Rye. That makes sense. Matthew Naismith. Listen, those proximities that we talked about earlier on in the show, he's obviously going to be, right there with the best of them there. Anybody else? We got Aaron Rye, JJ Spawn, Matthew Naismith. I can't tell. Miami Mike might have nominated Brent Snedeker.
That's what that is, Sneds. Yeah, I'll give that a nomination.
That counts. Anybody want to back up any of these guys? If not, we'll have to go with the first true nomination because I can't tell if Sneds won, and we'll have to go with JJ Spawn there. We'll go in 3, 2, 1. No seconds. So let's go to JJ Spawn, Joel.
JJ Spawn, official.
7,000.
We have a late second after we made it official. I don't know. I'm not. It's a tough call.
I mean, Byron, you kind of have to you're on the clock here, guy.
I think we gotta let the golf writer of the year make this decision. I think that's only fair.
That's true, Spencer.
Well, I'll tell you this: if it would have affected me one way or another, I'd have a different answer based off of this. It doesn't. I say we go with JJ Spawn just because he's already typed in.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
All right, so that will give me 2 picks here, and the audience is I don't know what to expect from them at this point, and oh man, well, I'll tell you this. The first name I will take that I know nobody is going to probably take, but I want to get him on my team this week because I think that this is, even though it doesn't seem to be the ideal course setup for him, some of these proximity ranges are what I like to see from him, and I think that the par 5 scoring might come into play. I like Taylor Pendrith a lot this week. There's a lot of sharp money that's entered the market on him. I think he's a guy who makes some sense that nobody's going to take in any of these contests, and I'm trying, as I said, to build a lineup that's either going to be in first or last place with it. So that helps me a little there. And then it comes down to what I want to do for this final play, because I don't think anybody can get up to the guy that I'm going to try to get to. I was hoping in an ideal situation, and I never quite anticipated Jason Day making it back. That was going to have to be a decision I made in the second round, I thought, if he fell down to me. But I was hoping Seamus Power would be there for me. I was assuming Sia would take Maverick McNeely, so I wouldn't get him at this point. I think I'm just going to lock up Jordan Spieth. I don't think anybody can get to him, but I want to make sure that I'll have $7,400 after that. I think it's a group of players that I can pick between if something goes wrong for me after that. So I'll lock in my high-end guy or my second high-end guy on there and leave myself with 7,400.
I like it. Yeah, that's a good pick. All right, you got a good amount left. That's a good looking squad there. All right, audience, you are back on the clock. You have $8,000 average remaining salary, so keep that in mind in your nominations. Right, you don't have to spend all your money, but you can't go over. So be sure to factor that in. Please hit us with some nominations. We need to get your next pick. Who would you guys like next? Miami Mike?
Well, we did have a nomination for Rye, Putnam, and Whaley previously. So we could Aaron Rye seemed to be pretty popular if you want to just throw him in there.
Yeah, we could pick him for the audience.
We'll give the audience a 5. Oh, we got Keith Mitchell. We're going to give the audience a 5-second countdown. Within 5 seconds, the pick will be Keith Mitchell since that was nominated. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Audience, before you have your 5 seconds is about to start, if you like someone out there, I would nominate or put your second on it now. 5, 4.
Sneds, Hughes,
Mitchell.
Okay, it's Keith Mitchell. Joe Vargas with the save. Thank you, Joe. Miami Mike, Sneds, Joe Vargas, Hughes, Charlie with Keith Mitchell. Finally, Charlie gets his way here. All right. So it is on me. I've got 2 picks left. So I'm pretty discouraged here because I'll tell you what I would have wanted to do is I would have wanted to go down to probably the low 7K range and take one of those guys that's down there that honestly, there's a lot of guys in the 7,000 to 7,200 range that I really like. And then I was going to go up to somebody in that sort of like 9,000 range that has unfortunately already been selected. So I'm going to go ahead and take, there's a few guys really low that I could take, but I don't really need to go that low the way I've crafted my team. So I'll go with, I got to give myself the clock here. You know what? I'm going to just do it. I'm going to go with Tom Hogue. I understand what I just said about the odds as they relate to Troy Merritt and Tom Hogue, but I do like Tom Hogue. I like the way he's been playing, and memory serves, his course history isn't bad here. So that's what I'll go with.
Hogue's a good pick. I like that pick. I know you, and I know you obviously are the first round leader whisperer. And my only issue with that pick is Tom Hogue only plays the first round. I don't think I've ever seen him on the course after that, but he's really good in the first round.
So here's the thing about Hogue. He is so volatile. When he's really dialed in, whether it's the first round or for 4 rounds, like he is really dialed in. And you see that with his history here and with his recent history. His last 4 tournaments, missed cut, 2nd place, missed cut, 4th place. His last 5 years at this tournament, 12th, 60th, missed cut, 39th. So the upside is there. That's not really the type of course history I'm looking for at this event, to be honest with you. But I'm hoping some of that recent form, some of that volatility spikes the right way for me. So that's my justification for Hogue there.
Yeah, I think that certainly makes sense. All right, now that I got the pressure on me, and there's really kind of 2 guys I'm deciding between, and it's a tough one. All right. Yep, we're gonna do it. We're gonna go with Mito Pereira. With the first pick. Now I know it's not my style. He doesn't have a course history that can't be held against him because it's not like he has anything poor. He has anything good. It's just neutral. He's been competing, and that's really what it is. I think he's still underpriced. I think he's better than this price tag. I think he's closer to an all-star level golfer than he's getting credit for. His one tournament in January, more recently, gained almost 4 strokes on the field. So I think this is just a bargain kind of pick for me here. And then to wrap up the lineup, I'm going to save some salary. I'm going to dive down. There's 2 guys I'm debating between, so I'm kind of just stalling while I make this final decision. And yeah, I'm going to go with Scott Stallings. Now, this is definitely a riskier pick for sure, and it's definitely heavily based on course history. He's had a lot of success here, and so I'm kind of trying to hone in on some of that text for context. Stallings' last 5, he was tied for 30th last year, missed the cut in 2020, 3rd in 19, 7th in 18, 14th in 14. So the concern is that the main success was a few years ago, but it's definitely a course that he likes, that he tends to play better at. More recently in his 2 tournaments in January, he's gaining strokes tee to green. Not so much, barely at the Amex, but he did pretty well at the Farmers over 46th. I think if he can show a little improvement in a course he likes, he can compete. So that's going to be it for me. Sia, how you rounding out your squad?
So there's a guy there's 2 guys I'm debating between, and I'll just tell you who they are just right off the bat. I'll tell you, it's Chez Reavie, who really hasn't been on the map much at all lately because he's been playing very poorly for the most part. But his course history here is really good. The other guy is Joel Dahman. And Joel Dahman has a decent course history here. I just think he's a good profile for this course, especially when he gets hot with the approach. I feel like him and Hogue sort of have similar golf personalities, if you will, where they can get really hot, really dialed in. And I think this might be the track for him to do it. But you know what? I mentioned course history from the jump, and so I'm just going to lean on that again. I'm going to go with Chez Reavie, 7,400. I believe that leaves me with 100 left. I'm not in love with that pick. I mean, if you look at my lineup, it's, again, team non-sexy lineup there, but other than maybe the top 2, but even them, not really. But honestly, sometimes those are the lineups, right? Because you take the big names or the guys you really like, those tend to not really work out. So I'm satisfied with this.
I like it. It's a good-looking team. Audience, with your final pick.
How much do they have left?
You have
8,600
left. So to give you guys a little preview, guys in that range that might be interesting for you, we can start with Brian Harmon, who I think has been mentioned already as a nomination multiple times. An interesting pick. Mackenzie Hughes, who, I don't love this week, but I could understand the pick. Denny McCarthy at 8,200. Another popular one who I don't think anyone's mentioned on the show yet, which I'm a little bit surprised by, Charlie Hoffman in this range. So in terms of nominations, what we have is Minwoo Lee, Brian Harmon, Hughes, Bez. First one to get seconded is your pick.
Bez is not going to be affordable. He's 8,700. I like that pick. I'm surprised he didn't get picked, by the way. But he's not affordable. He's 100 outside the range.
There, thank you. See, that is disqualified. We're going to start the countdown. 5 seconds. If not, your pick is going to be who was the first? Minwoo.
We got. Oh, that's 2 for Seabez. Can't have that.
Seabez can't happen. Wait, did we get 2 for Harmon?
This is great.
We got 2
Bez fake news is just that's just classic. I love it.
We did get 2 Harmon, so that's going to be the official pick.
Okay. Brian Harmon.
That's a
Interesting.
good pick. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
The audience team is solid. I like the audience team. I think you guys put together a nice looking squad here.
Yeah, I like their team also, and I'll wrap this up with some of my thought process of how I went into this and how it changed a little bit. So I was hoping to have Jason Day fall back to me. That would have opened up some money for me to be able to get to Matt Jones at $8,000. I miscalculated it a little bit with Andrew Putnam at 7,600 there. So I wasn't able to get to him unless I pull a fake news and try to put him into my lineup, I guess. But when I'm looking at the $7,400 golfers or below on here, really wanted Nick Taylor. I know he went off the board a little bit earlier. I think Pat Perez is intriguing. Matthew Neesmith, my model likes. The ownership's just a little bit too much around him. Stallings was a name I was considering also. I think Vincent Whaley is fine, but I'm going to wrap up the draft and leave some money myself on the board. I'm going to take Wyndham Clark. And one of the things I like about Wyndham Clark, or a couple of things I like about Wyndham Clark, he has 6 consecutive made cuts, par or better streak in 12 straight rounds. He's 2 for 2 at this tournament in made cuts. And we always think distance with him and the iron play may not fit into the numbers, but he's found success here in the past before. He's the number 1 POA putter in my model. He's good around the green. So, guys like him and Pendrith and Rogers, there's a little bit more distance on that team than you would think that you might want at a venue like Pebble Beach. But I think all those guys fit into a lineup really well together. Like if all 3 missed the cut, there may be too much volatility there. But to me, this is a week where I want to go as stars and scrubs with it as I can, just because we get 54 holes guaranteed from everybody. And I do think the top of the board of the Cantlays, Bergers, Spieths, Days, all those guys are a little bit better than the rest of the crop of the field. So I'm going to round it out with Wyndham Clark and leave myself some money on the board.
I like it. And, by the way, in that sort of like scrubs, if you will, range, a couple of guys that we didn't draft that I should mention. And by the way, Patrick Cantlay didn't get drafted. So that's interesting. I wanted to draft him with my 5th pick, but that would have left 4,800 left over. And I guess Nick Bretwish probably would have qualified in that price range, but there wasn't any golfers on DraftKings for me to do that with. So I think Mark Hubbard, if you're going that low in the 6K range, Cameron Percy's another guy that I think is interesting. Yeah. He's got a good course history here. Do you guys have any other guys that are in that like mid 6 or high 6K range or anywhere in the 6K range that you'd throw out there just if you needed to?
Well, what I was just going to say that it's really interesting, and it does go to tell you kind of how we're thinking about this week, is not only was Cantlay not drafted, neither was anyone in the 6K range. There wasn't a 6K golfer drafted. So obviously this wasn't really a stars and scrubs approach because we left Cantlay out there and no one took anyone in the 6K range. So it's an interesting thought process of how this draft went. It could be coincidental in how we were kind of thinking about our draft, but that is how it broke out from all of us, including the audience, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I went with a little bit more of a modified stars and scrubs approach since I didn't dip down into the 6,000s myself. But just to throw out a couple of guys that my model likes a little bit, Brian Stewart likes from an upside perspective. Austin Eckroat at 6,800. He's going to be a little bit popular, though. I like the Mark Hubbard call. I always like Aaron Baddeley a little bit more than I think the consensus is around him. I think Camilo Villegas, this is a decent course for him. I know Nick likes Villegas a lot this week. That's one of his guys that he has a top 40 bet on. And then I probably wouldn't have gone lower than Paul Bourgeon and Cameron Percy at 6,600. That was the lowest I was looking at if I was going to try to fit somebody into a lineup.
Yeah, for the record, Villegas popped in my model like pretty high. The only knock against him was he either has no course history, because I have some bad marks next to either no course history or bad course history. So I'm checking it now. He has no course history, at least not in the last 5 years. So that's not a huge knock, but that was just something that kind of kept me off of him. But honestly, Villegas, to Nick's credit, he really kind of popped everywhere. Around the green in particular, he's pretty elite. Those proximities we were concerned with, very elite, in the top 20, really in most of those, or at least near the top 20 in most of those. So yeah, approach game isn't bad. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, 9th in my model around the green. He's 12th from proximity from 100 to 125 yards and 28th from 125 to 150. So I mean, for a $6,700 golfer, he has a lot of potential that you would be trying to find, and 2 straight made cuts entering the week. So the form looks pretty decent right now.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah. I'll be honest, there's maybe a couple of guys that you mentioned that I might consider, but for me, I'm trying to avoid this 6K range this week. I don't think I think you can be more balanced ahead of it where you don't need to. And I do think it's a week where if there's someone you like, it's worth taking the shot because you get those 3 days and there's an advantage to that. It's just not one I really love down there. I think the guys I'm looking at are a little bit higher. And my biggest thing is I think the 7 and 8K range is closer to the top than normal. So I don't think I need to dive down. So that's my thought process. That's kind of how I'm shaking out this week. But what about you guys? Anything else we missed?
Well,
go ahead, Spencer.
No, I was just going to say this really quickly since I already threw this out a second ago. I mean, the one guy that I didn't get on my team that I really wanted this week was Matt Jones at 8,000. I'm not a huge fan of the $8,000 range in general. I think there's a couple options. I think Bezadenhout is one of them. I think Matt Jones is probably my preferred target there. But, you know, it was when you start Berger and Spieth, it's kind of hard to get up there unless you get yourself into the $6,000 range. And I decided to go a little bit of a different route with it. But just wanted to throw Matt Jones out there again because I do like him a lot this week.
Yep.
Nice. All right. Well, that's the draft. That's a wrap. Take a look at the teams. Let us know who you like, who you think is going to win. Drop a comment. We'll take your predictions and see who is right next week. But before we wrap up today, we do have some outrights. I don't think we're going to go to the first round leader market because there's 3 courses and the lines aren't out. So it's going to be hard to do that. But we can give you some outrights. We'll talk through that. So without further ado, Spence, do you want to kick us off in the outright market?
Yeah, so I have 5 this week. I started with Jordan Spieth at 22-1. I took Matt Jones at 70-1. And then my 3, I mean, Matt Jones technically qualifies in that dart throw long shot range, but in true dart throws over 100-1. Taylor Pendrith 130-1. Patrick Rogers 100-1. Sahith Theegala 110-1. So a lot of people that are on my team this week that I'm taking chances on in a ton of markets.
Well, it sounds like you drafted well. I like it. For me, there's a few darts I'm going to throw this week. My favorite is Charlie Hoffman at 60-1. Rusty for sure. I just think it's a good number. I'm actually probably playing less of him in DFS. It's more like an outright kind of Hail Mary shot that I'm looking to take with him. I also like on my team Mito Pereira at 40-1. Again, I just think it's a little bit of an inflated number. I do think he has some win equity. They got a 40 to the number line on him. I think is some good value. And then at the top, in terms of guys who I actually think are going to win the tournament, my favorite play is going to be Patrick Cantlay. I don't love the odds. It's like 6.5-1 at this point. It's probably not worth taking, but that will be someone I'll be looking at maybe over the weekend. If I can get a live number, maybe I can still get 3-1 or something like that. Then I'll probably invest there.
Just really fast to add to that. I think that's a really unique way to play this tournament this week. And that's one of the reasons why I did leave some exposure, unit exposure on the table. I think between, the Cantlays and the Bergers and all those guys, I'm curious to see where some of them come on Saturday, because I think you can jump into this market.
For sure.
That's a really good point. Okay, so I have 3 guys here only. And, I wish we had some first round leaders. Fortunately, starting next week, we're going to have some of that. But I do have the breaking news. So that's really good. Breaking news that's going to make everybody rich. Oh, speaking of breaking news, I think everybody kind of knew this, but it's official. It's kind of been leaked because this is supposed to happen tomorrow. But the Washington football team, the name is out, and it is the Washington Commanders. As a Washington football fan with Santana Moss behind my right shoulder, holding up the 21 for Sean Taylor, I'm not super excited about that. I thought maybe Red Wolves would be good because you could still sing the fight song to some degree. For those of you that know what that song is, without using the alleged disparaging name. So anyway, it's the Washington Commanders, and here we are. Okay, more exciting news. Here is a couple of weird. So I put a bet in on Seamus Power right when the Zalatoris news broke. I tweeted something out. It was kind of late when I tweeted it, but that number has gone down. I got it at 28-1. It's now 22-1. I also put a play on Justin Rose, which I think was at 26-1, and now that's probably down as well. So I do have a play on Seamus Power at 22-1. I'm not necessarily in love with it, but I'm just letting you know I betted it. So I'm really going with a couple long guys. Russell Knox, who does have the course history here. He has a good course fit. That is 80 to 1. I think that is super solid there. And then here's the breaking news, guys. Here is the news. Crazy. This is the news that's going to get really everybody rich, especially everybody listening. Tell your friends, tell your loved ones, gather all the money you have, because this guy is clearly going to win. He's going to be the outright winner at the end of the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Okay, so in 1975, Paul Simon came out with a song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Every time I think of this guy, that song pops in my head. Okay. And he is 80 to 1 to win this tournament. And he's got tons of upside, downside too. He's very volatile, tons of upside. And so now 1975, fast forward to 2022. And I'm going to put, instead of 50 ways to leave your lover, $50 on Lucas Glover. 80 to 1, it's $4,000. Listen, you don't have to thank me. Your thank you is putting some money, doesn't have to be 50, is putting some money on Lucas Glover so I can see the smile on your face when you send me the screenshot of you sitting next to a screenshot of your 80 to 1 shot. 50 ways, $50 on Lucas Glover.
I can support that with another fact. Never has there in the history of the PGA Tour been a winner that I did not draft on my team in our draft. So
that's
wow. I drafted Lucas Glover, so clearly that's probably what's going to happen. So it makes sense.
That is very compelling.
Yeah, well, that's a fact. That is a fact. So
yeah, that is true. And 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover sounds like a song I would sing to Jason Day. I thought that's where you were going with it for a second.
Well, he's not, if he was 80 to 1, I'd be taking Jason Day. But, by the way, has the restraining order been lifted?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. So as an attorney, I just want you to, watch out, because even on the internet, that's just a messy situation. But
yeah,
I'm treading lightly.
Yeah, I hope $50 on Lucas Glover is rotating in everybody's head over the next few days, just like that, as an annoyance. Nobody knows that song though. Go back, everybody, all you young folk, go back and YouTube 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. It's a catchy song.
See, can you give us a couple chords?
I was going to, but something happened with my voice. I have to rest it. My singing voice, I have to rest for an upcoming concert. So I don't want to aggravate anything.
That's fair. I get that. That's fair.
Yeah.
Glover is fourth on my model from a safety perspective, just to throw that out there. So my model really liked him this week.
Interesting. All right. Paul Simon has a better chance of winning than Glover. I mean, better, maybe the same chance. I'm not sure.
That was good.
Harbaugh to the Dolphins. Okay. See, his team is solid. See, this guy, S Clear 5, definitely knows what's up. So thank you for that. And then Charlie, thanks for including us, and congrats, Spencer. So we're going to do this from here on out. So
Charlie.
Charlie, do me a favor, because this is the same Charlie that's in our Discord all the time and helping us out. You guys tell everybody what we're doing, because we are really going to bring this show out really to the forefront starting next week. And we want as much audience participation as possible. We want as much back and forth, and we'll field questions during this draft, by the way. If people have questions, we will absolutely field them and go on with the draft. So please do us a favor. Tell everybody about Win Daily Sports. Maybe go to the YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe, but make sure you're here next Tuesday at 8 o'clock so that we can run this back.
And don't forget, like I said, we're doing a big rebranding next week. So it's going to be a new show name, the show is, we're growing, we're changing. The rebranding's happening. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's a big show. Tune in next week. Come see for yourself. But before you guys leave, smash that like button. Give us all a follow. Come back next week. See ya. What'd I forget?
Yeah, that's it. It's just, I had the Paul Simon bit, and then we talked about Snap. I've got the power. So this is a very musical episode. So I think we need to end on sports.